Frank Costello said, I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. Costello is the main antagonist from the film The Departed. Even though he's a villain, the lines are an empowering way of looking at the role of the teacher and student. Many teachers, specifically in an urban setting, succumb to the weight of the profession and let the toll of the work shape who they are. They could become the angry middle school teacher that's always screaming, or the sitting high school history teacher that's always asking for notes. Those teachers became a product of their environment. To make your environment a product of you is saying that you will become an example of what you can do in your environment, not what your environment does to you. My environment, or cultural background, is a first generation American from Mexico. So Spanish is my first language. But I failed Spanish in high school. That high school was Paramount High. Some well known alumni include Prince Zuko from Avatar and YG. As a Latino and first generation American, my goal as an educator is to help Spanish speakers and other Latin students master the English language. English was one of my worst subjects, and I hated it. As I've gained perspective, I found my hate and struggle towards English was due to a lack of teachers and novels with my own cultural and ethnic background. Thus, in order to help my environment become a production of me, I want to be an English teacher in order to bring in ethnic writers and an ethnic teacher into the environment to help produce more students with a producer mindset. However, I believe my experience as a tutor at a continuation high school is what actually inspired me to be a teacher. In Geneva's Gay's book, Culturally Responsive Teaching, she states that the common phrase, good teachers anywhere are good teachers everywhere, is wrong. She states, individuals who subscribe to this belief fail to realize that their standards of goodness in teaching and learning are culturally determined and are not the same for all ethnic groups. I agree with Gay on her point that one method of teaching does not work with every environment or context. However, I disagree with her point that good teaching does not transcend context because good teaching is about adapting. For example, at Continuation High School, I wanted to quit before the end of my first day. The school was made out of an old church. It had a gym with a basketball court, but the ceiling was too low for anyone to shoot a decent three-pointers. On the site, there were only four teachers, three teachers' aides, and two tutors, one of them being me. I didn't get the job because I wanted to be some stand and deliver type of character. I just graduated with a creative writing degree and needed some type of job related to the field. So I thought, why not tutor? I applied to some jobs and took the first job offer. The interview was about 5 minutes, which should have been my first sign that something was up, but in my desperation, I ignored my instincts. Along with a security job in the evening, the money wasn't bad, and if I didn't like it, I'd always quit. On my first day at the school, the classroom was surprisingly full with students. The girl I was replacing seemed to have a good relationship with the students, but they weren't doing much work. They were focused on talking about a fight that happened earlier that day between one of the students in the classroom and another student they would describe as the weirdo with the hoodie. In those first hours at the site, I kept a smile on my face, while in my head I was already thinking about quitting. I kept a smile while I said goodbye to the administrators, thinking it would be the last time I would see them. But as I was walking towards my car, I heard the main supervisor say to the others, "Yeah, he ain't gonna last 2 days." I drove home thinking I was crazy and didn't really hear him say that. But then I started thinking, what if he did? What about my face, my body language, my overall persona made him know that about me? It made me angry. Not at him, but at myself. What kind of image was I putting out there that can make someone stare me up and down and decide I can't teach kids like that? So I stayed at the school until it shut down. That was a year of my life. And the most important thing I learned from it is the concept of adapting and growing. So when Gay says that good teaching does not transcend to different environments, I argue that it can, if the teaching changes. My philosophy of education goes back to my opening quote. I want my environment to be a product of me. This line reflects my philosophy on education, which according to Parquet's test is existentialism. According to Parquet, an existential pedagogy asks students to acquire their own meaning to their life. Therefore, my goal as an educator is to get students to think for themselves and to find their own path in life, in order for them to be producers of environments instead of becoming a product of one. With this in mind, I think a great way to develop cultural competence of my students is through ethnic literature. As an inspiring English teacher, I think it's crucial for students to form their own opinions and interpretations of literature. Although I believe there is some objectivity to the universe when it comes to literature or just about any subjective experience, there is a certain fluidity in meaning or interpretation. However, this does not mean that their interpretation can be on just about anything. There must be an explanation and evidence to support their claim. Through these critical analysis of literature, I believe students can gain self-reliance and trust in themselves in order to navigate through the world. This philosophy comes from my love of stories. Most people would say not to think of life as the same as books and movies, and they would be correct. However, I think the moral lessons learned through stories and the complexities of well-developed characters gives us different perspectives, and as a result, a perspective of our own self. Because of this, I firmly believe that introducing writers from different ethnicities and cultures will help a diverse population of students gain a perspective of themselves. I like to think of it as them finally gaining a third person view of themselves. As a current substitute teacher, I have worked in many diverse classrooms. As a result, I have become aware of my own bias against certain students. It is unfortunate, but it is a reality. However, something that I have found helpful in minimizing my bias is asking questions before coming to assumptions. A question opens dialogue, and a relationship grows between the student and teacher. Assumptions are belief, and just like a priest will always believe in God, a person who assumes will always believe in their bias. Therefore, educators should create an open-minded and safe classroom so that personal reflection and growth could be explored without the pressure of external forces interfering with their learning. It is imperative that an English classroom is open to ideas and is able to build on each individual student's creativity. To do so, it is critical that the teacher remains open-minded themselves and is able to listen deeply in order to understand every connection the student makes. Thank you for listening. My name is Jorge Agredano.